In August of 1994, Eastern Championship Wrestling became Extreme Championship Wrestling, a rebrand that was hardly superfluous. Even before Paul Heyman took over the book, ECW had prided itself on going just a little bit farther than the big two of the day, pushing the envelope beyond all conventional boundaries. Calling itself Extreme was just being upfront about who and what they were. In this list, we look back at the most extreme incidents in ECW's short history, mass transit excluded. These were the times when the wrestlers within treaded deep into the dark realm of risk to either the sounds of holy you-know-what or the promotion's initials. I'm Sam Driver from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are ECW's 10 most extreme moments. Join us!
Andrew, what are you watching there? No, Andrew, seriously, what are you guys watching over there?
Shush, Owen! Stop saying our names, we're trying to protect our identity!
Sam, how are you watching that?
Will you stop dropping us in it? They don't know where we're from.
You can't get that in the UK. Are we going to get a knock at the door?
No, no, no! We're using NordVPN!
Wow, so cool. That's radical, dude. So naughty.
If you imagine the internet like the wrestling industry, NordVPN is like a giant digital lucha mask that keeps your identity hidden online, keeps all your private information like banking and passwords safe from those dastardly dirt sheets, and it leaves no digital footprint behind. So basically, if you're looking for a lightning-fast tag team partner in these trying times, NordVPN has got your back. Not only does it look out for your data and safety, it also lets you shift your virtual location with one click to access content and streaming services exclusive to other regions, often saving you a ton of money in the process. Did somebody say cheaper PLEs? One account can be used on up to 10 devices, so no matter what you're using, Nord's going to be there waiting for the hot tag.
Ugh. And if you're the type who likes to live the gimmick, this can mean things like cheaper flights, hotels, and experiences. Dig it! The numbers don't lie. Cultaholic truly believes Nord to be the best VPN out there, and if you try it and don't agree, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. To get the best discount on your NordVPN plan, head to nordvpn.com/Cultaholic. Not only will it get you a hefty discount, but you'll also get 4 free months off the 2-year plan. The link is in the description below. Thanks for your time, and a huge thanks to Nord for sponsoring today's video.
Cheers, lads. That's some proper good mucho content, ain't that?
Number 10, take a seat. Chair shots in wrestling are a curious thing. They've become as commonplace as headlocks, just as they've been fingered as a culprit in a number of wrestlers' later life brain injuries. Accordingly, most chair shots these days are done in much safer ways, like slammed flatly across someone's back, or in a manner that allows the recipient to control how minimally their head makes contact. Suffice to say, there was little control behind this August 1994 incident at the ECW arena. A match between hardcore icons Cactus Jack and Terry Funk went to a no contest after tag champions The Public Enemy attacked both men. Jack and Funk gained the upper hand and laid both men out. Funk then asked for someone in the audience to toss him a chair, at which point far too many arena goers obliged. A veritable tidal wave of steel and plastic chairs began flying into the ring, burying Public Enemy while Funk and Jack ducked for cover. A staffer then pleaded over the mic for everybody to stop, but only after about 100 chairs filled the ring did the blitz finally cease. Number 9, Dudley does surf. You have to wonder what sort of athletic commission would sanction a match between Bam Bam Bigelow and Spike Dudley. The Beast from the East was a 360-pound force of nature, while 140-pound Spike would have had to run around in the shower if he wanted to get wet. There is an idealized David vs. Goliath story you can tell with Spike taking on Bigelow, except in David vs. Goliath, I don't really recall David body surfing across a horde of bystanders. During the course of the battle, Bigelow hoisted Spike up into a gorilla press, then darted toward the ropes, throwing his much smaller opponent into the second row of the ECW arena crowd. Now already, that's an impressive feat of strength, no matter what the size difference between them is. But then, for good measure, the empathetic fans lifted the splayed out Spike and passed him around the arena, as though he were vibing at a metal show. Hopefully Spike was at least partially awake to enjoy the free ride. Number 8. Human Sinkhole Machine. Throwing straw weights for distance didn't provide the only crazy visual from Bigelow's time in ECW. Roughly 6 months later, Bigelow was at odds with reigning TV champion Taz as part of Taz's greater rivalry with Shane Douglas's Triple Threat. Taz and Bama were slated to face off for the belt at the 1998 Living Dangerously pay-per-view in Bigelow's native Asbury Park. Many figured the local boy would have been going over, but few would have guessed how. Late in the bout, Taz leapt onto his larger foe's back and snared him in the dreaded Taz mission. Taz sunk it in deep while Bigelow fought against the hold, staggering around the ring in search of escape. Just when it looked like the big man was fading alongside the ropes, he took a massive backward bump, breaking the canvas beneath them and sending both men into the abyss. Collectively, thousands of fans leapt from their seats in shock and astonishment at the unexpected sight of a dual disappearance. Number 7. Flying Flyboy. In the days before Crash TV revolutionized wrestling, ECW made good use of a unique television model. While they did air some full matches, their 1-hour programs would largely be snippets, little tasters of the craziness from the recent ECW arena shows designed to get fans to order the home video releases to see the entire match. ECW loved to tease, and this particular spot they teased like crazy on hardcore TV, freezing or cutting away before the moment of impact. The Public Enemy and the Gangsters faced off in a weapons-filled street cage match to close out the 1995 heatwave. Late in the bout, Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge stacked 2 tables and managed to place New Jack on the top slate. Rocco then climbed to the top of the cage and moonsaulted onto the pile, barely grazing New Jack with his legs. The force was still enough to collapse the heap, sending New Jack and 2 broken tables crashing down to the canvas. But the most you ever saw on free TV was a freeze frame of Rocco mid-flight. Number 6. He's gotta be caned! Early on in his ECW run, Tommy Dreamer was chided by crowds as being a toothless pretty boy, a grit-free babyface unworthy of their admiration. Often booed against the heels of the day, Dreamer busted his ass to try and earn everybody's respect. And as it would turn out, Dreamer's window of opportunity opened not with victory, but rather defeat. Particularly the aftermath of that defeat. In 1994, Dreamer lost to a then villainous Sandman in a match where the loser had to receive 10 lashes with Sandman's Singapore cane. Dreamer subjected himself to all 10 of Sandman's skin-ripping, welt-inducing, blood-drawing strikes, even when given the chances by Sandman's valet woman to meekly withdraw. Dreamer insisted on taking the full painful barrage, drawing cringeful expressions from even his biggest detractors in the audience. But after the final lash, Dreamer dragged himself to his feet, limped toward a disbelieving Sandman, and humbly asked him, "Is that all you got?" Suffice it to say, nobody questioned Dreamer's toughness from that day on. Number 5. Table for 4. 2 years after letting Sandman scar his back into oblivion, Dreamer wasn't done dying in the name of extreme. Throughout much of 1996, Dreamer had feuded with primetime Brian Lee, the former fake Undertaker, resulting in a number of violent occurrences. One such moment occurred at Ultimate Jeopardy, in which Dreamer and Lee were on opposite sides of the tag team main event. During the course of the match, Lee and Dreamer brawled to the back of the ECW arena, just below an elevated balcony section called the Eagle's Nest. Several of Raven's lackeys stacked up 4 tables, which was about equal to the height of the nest. With Dreamer stunned, Lee dragged the innovator of violence onto the perch and proceeded to chokeslam him off through the stack, breaking the top 3 of them. Though Lee would be gone from ECW within the next year, footage of Dreamer's body-breaking descent through lumber persisted in ECW's TV openings for several years after, because why wouldn't you want to show that off? Number 4. Prime Time's Plummet. Eventually, of course, Tommy Dreamer gets his revenge. He got revenge on Sandman for entry number 6 by blinding him with a lit cigarette, and he would eventually get revenge on Lee with a poetic punishment. 3 weeks after the table attack, Dreamer and Lee were booked to face each other in a truly dangerous bout, a high-incident match, with both men fighting on scaffolding above the ring, which is filled with nothing but stacks of tables. To win, you must simply send your opponent hurtling through wooden hell. Dreamer was busted open and at one juncture crotched on a horizontal wooden beam, but he fought on against his larger opponent. Eventually, he gained the upper hand, staggering Lee with big right hands. Soon, Primetime found himself holding onto a suspension chain for dear life while Dreamer walloped him with heavy rights. Then, after a theatrical wind-up, Dreamer punched Lee off the scaffold's edge, sending him through multiple tables to the mat below. Of all the times Joey Styles screamed "Oh my god" on commentary, this one might have just been his most urgently guttural. Number 3, Stuck on You. Terry Funk and Sabu's match for the ECW title was not the promotion's first barbed wire match, but it's unquestionably its most famous. Equally, the two Extreme legends had dabbled in strands of jagged delights many times before, but it was at ECW's Born to be Wired that the two men had their most dire date with the replacement ropes. What did the two men do? Well, it was actually what they couldn't do. Throughout the 21-minute war, both men tore flesh and spilled blood. The most gruesome individual spot was one where Sabu shredded his biceps on the barbs to such a degree that he needed 100 stitches to close the wound. By the end, both men were so hopelessly entangled in unmoored wires that movement was nigh on impossible. Through screams and groans, the two men tried to maneuver free to no avail. Sabu, with barbs yanking his hair, had to unceremoniously roll on top of Funk for an anticlimactic finish. It then took a whole team of individuals with wire cutters to eventually separate the pair. Number 2, almost burning down the house. This one enters into the realm of forbidden lore, in large part because video footage of the actual incident was allegedly destroyed. Tommy Dreamer and Cactus Jack main evented one particular 1995 ECW arena show with Terry Funk and Raven in their respective corners. After Dreamer eked out the win, the heels attacked the faces, with Cactus introducing a deadly weapon, a chair with a kerosene-soaked cloth wrapped around it, which was set on fire. The angle called for Cactus to try and hit Funk with the fire chair. When Cactus went to tease a swing at an escaping Funk, some or all of the flaming cloth flew out of the chair, landing on Funk's back on the floor. A burning Funk then darted madly around ringside before the towel fell off and allegedly burned a fan. As staffers arrived with extinguishers, the lights then suddenly went out as part of the planned post-match angle. Panicked fans fleeing the building had to do so in total darkness. Fortunately, a stampede situation was avoided, and nobody, aside from Funk, who suffered second-degree burns, was seriously hurt. And number 1, Danbury Descent. The outcome of this spot was a near fatality in the middle of a pay-per-view, thanks in large part to poor planning and untimely hesitation. At ECW Living Dangerously 2000, New Jack was involved in a skirmish with a heel group called the Baldies, and had brawled with one member in particular, the 330-pound Vic Grimes, to the back of the arena. The plan was for New Jack to throw the surprisingly nimble Grimes off a scaffold through 2 tables. That was the plan anyway. Neither man had apparently scouted the scaffold ahead of time, so when they climbed it mid-brawl, they learned how rickety and flimsy it really was. Grimes developed cold feet about getting thrown from the structure, but New Jack wouldn't allow him to back out. He grabbed Grimes and tried to forcibly throw him off, but Grimes resisted. And that's when New Jack's foot slipped off and Grimes fell after him a beat later. New Jack's legs spiked the table, and Grimes crunched New Jack's skull onto the concrete floor on his own landing. New Jack had brain fluid leaking from his nose and was blinded in one eye as a result of the fall.